There's things out there you can't, where the doctor has to step in. But like most of the pains and unhealthy things that we're dealing with, we think that it might be disease or virus or whatever. It's not. It's just a matter of your body. You're not treating it properly, and you just need to go a different direction and get healthier. He's just really good at
It's
that.
so true. It's true, and I, as a CrossFit coach, I see it in my gym a lot. There are bad gyms and CrossFit boxes where coaches are not paying attention, or people, their ego get involved and they go too heavy. Of course, it has a risk, CrossFit, I agree. But for the most part, when I see people getting injured, it's because their knee was already hurting, but they never moved their whole life. And then they start squatting, and you're like, oh, fuck, my knee hurts, so now I'm getting injured because of CrossFit. It's like, no, the pain and the lack of mobility and the lack of stability was already there, but now you're getting exposed to it because you never did anything with your body anyway. So,
And they neglected that pain for quite some time because that wasn't the first time they felt it, and so
exactly.
We want to equate it to like, oh, it was because I did a power clean or squat or something like that. But in reality, it's like you said, this was a slow drip of you being in bad posture for so long. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Exactly, and then the squatting is not bad for your knee, but not able to squat is bad for your knee.
Exactly.
To turn it around.
And like you and I have talked about this, but like a lot of people don't realize this, that like you got knee problems, it's probably in your feet and your ankles. Probably have weak ankles and weak feet that, that's the kinetic chain. When you follow the kinetic chain, you realize everything's connected. And if you have a collapsed arch, you're going to have a problem with probably the teardrop and ACL, MCL in your knee. Easy to tear meniscus. It happened to me, and like I realized like how weak my feet were. And still to this day, I have some really cool workouts that I do with my toes every day and things to like strengthen my arch and get that back. But like that fixed my knees. And then now my hip hinge is a little jacked up, which I've been talking to you about. And that's all following up the kinetic chain is just because like my feet were bad, which caused my knees to go bad, which caused my hips to go bad. And it just goes all the way up to my shoulders. But now that I'm realizing what the problem is, I'm like, oh, okay, I focus down here, fix it. In fact, it was like 2 weeks. Like I felt like some pretty serious progress. And so like just finding the problems, the source of the problem, that's it. But I think to myself, like, say if I went to go see a doctor, they're going to tell me like, oh, you definitely have ACL, and like a slight tear. And then the meniscus, which is always like, you could choose to get surgery or not, but they go right to the knee. They don't go to the feet at all, and like, that's really was my problem is I had weak ankles and weak feet that I couldn't like, I had zero ankle flexion. What do they call that? Dorsiflexion, I believe, in the foot.
I'm not sure.
It's something
the
like
English
that.
term is, but
where you go all the way up in your tippy toes.
Yeah.
And your feet your toes are completely spread out as far as you can, and then you push them down the ground, not curl. And so I think it's dorsiflexion, but like I had severe problems with both of those. And now that I feel it, I'm like, okay, I could strengthen it. So I've been strengthening it, focused on it. There's movements that I do. And my knees, man, that like, I showed you, or you saw the squat the other day. Like, it's like, that was the first time I actually felt like power, like I could feel strength there. It wasn't shaky and like, ooh, I might tweak something there. So I feel it's all in my feet, man. It really is. Like I'm able to get the base of my foot all the way on the ground, spread my toes out, get a solid, stance. And like, that's what fixed me. And I've always thought it was my knees. So it's kind of a crazy thought that I'm sitting with.
And we're being patient as well. So you took your time to recover. And what I noticed as well, people who do yoga, their toes are like this all the time. Mm-hmm. So they're like spread out. So I knew a girl who does yoga, and she got 2 centimeters bigger because of yoga. And if you see her feet, because she's constantly, not in her shoes, but balancing on her toes, because, her shoes mess up her feet a lot. We're in this weird position where toes get squeezed in, basically. And that's why I love training bare feet, like especially light work. Of course, when I go heavier with the lift, I love to put on my lifters or whatever. But like light work or warm up, I was just put on my shoes and just walk how they were meant to be.
It's important. It really is. I don't think most people realize, but like our arch is like, it's a muscle, and you can move it just like your hand. It should be able to do this, not completely like the hand. You should be able to like bend your foot and do this with your mind. And like most people can't, man. It's way too stiff because it's just been locked in a shoe. And like, that's like, man, dude, like it really is like the base. It's our foundation. It's everything.
Exactly.
You lose
You're
your
grounded
feet.
to the floor.
Yeah, you lose your feet, like nothing's going to work right. And like the toes, dude, they're connected all the way to the top of your head. It's like all the tendons and everything is all connected to the top of your head, all the back of your neck.
Yeah.
So you got like your big toe.
And our whole nervous system as well, actually.
Exactly. It is, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like that big toe, like the big toe is so important. If it goes bad on you, like you're gonna have shoulder problems, like everything's gonna hurt. It really is. And it's all because of one toe.
I had this at my personal training course. We had to do a hamstring stretch and then foam roll the ball of our foot, or with a tennis ball basically, like do it for 30 seconds, and afterwards your hamstrings were less tight. They will loosen up just because of targeting that specific nerve, which is pretty crazy. Same with the neck. Like if you lift up your neck, someone had to do a hamstring curl, and they couldn't lift it up, and then relax position, and they could lift up. So it kind of proves that the whole kinetic chain, nervous system, muscles, they go through throughout the whole body, which is pretty cool.
And that's a whole other like overlooked thing is the neck, man. Like I talk to you about it a lot too, but like that neutral neck. If you don't have a neutral neck when you're lifting, like you're in for a world of hurt eventually. It's coming for you. You know, because that's what it does. It like takes your spine and it bends it in ways it shouldn't, and you just can't. You're not in right posture. You know, and like those like little things. Those are the little details that a lot of people don't know.
And it makes you realize that everything in your body is connected, and it also zooms out on emotional or even your whole life, that everything works together and it's not just singularity, which is a cool concept as well.
Yeah, man, like it really is. Like it all has to come together. Because like there's the kinetic chain, but we also have like connective tissue, which is like, you know, it's literally like wrapped around our body. You could think of like a plastic bag would just squeeze over you. And that right there is like how you stretch. And that stuff gets real tight too. So you got the kinetic chain, which is like all your muscles and tendons and everything interlinked. And then you have the tissue, connective tissue, which that's where I think that like surgeries get real tricky, because when you cut that, when it's tight, how can it loosen up again? Like you really just cause major problems. I don't know if you could ever get back. You know,
Yeah,
like,
true.
yeah, that needs
up
to be stretched out over time to like get better. Like you can't just cut it open and then like, that's why surgeries are like usually not good. You know, and there's times where you don't have a choice, but like, you know, like not saying that they're all bad, but like usually we could avoid it, you know, and it just like, I don't know, a matter of taking the pain and understanding what exactly to do to get out of whatever you're in, you know, whatever injury it is.
Yeah, and we want the fast fix. Like we want the pill that fixes us. So I never used to stretch at all. Like from when I was young until, I don't know, 15, 16, I never did one stretch in my life. And I played a lot of soccer. Like when I bent over, I could like barely go over my knees with my hands. And now I'm like 5 years later, I'm still struggling with those stretches because it takes time. Like all these years I've been doing nothing. Like, and if you have an injury or something hurts you, it's like an easy fix to get a surgery, but you just need to be patient with it. And over time you will get more stable or more mobile, which is kind of the goal. So it's also a fact of being patient.
Yeah, it's that slow drip. And you know, dude, like, cause like lifting weights to me is like, it's not much of a slow drip. You usually experience like within a month of like, you know, you're lifting a little more, or you might see a little muscle on you. Stretching's not like that. It's like
No, not at all.
no, dude, it's like 9 months of like pure suck, and then you get like a fucking millimeter. You know, it's like this
Centimeter,
really,
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
dude, it's like this tiny little movement.
Yeah.
It's like wow, like stretching, it's tough. It's like one of the toughest things to do. You know, like
Yeah, man.
because like when I, you know, I'm like really really into stretching. I do a lot of it, but there's like 3 steps to stretching, and in fact you said it, but like there's flexibility, there's mobility, and then there's stability. And like all these things need to be managed properly too. And it's like you said, man, like there's so much to like understand and you know, in anything about your body that like, you know, you got lifting, which is one aspect, but then the flexibility, mobility, stability part, like that is such an important piece to it. And like, I didn't really understand stability. Like I always understood flexibility, mobility. I didn't understand stability until like recently. And that was because like my feet. Now I'm starting to really get like what I got to do with my feet to be stable in like heavy lifts, and how important that is. Like, and it has everything to do with your neck, your shoulder blades, like everything of where you're positioned,
Yeah.
you know. And if you're wobbling and you're just slightly off the bar path, like you're in for a world of hurt in the future. You know, you keep doing that like over time, these compounds, and you're going to break something, you know. And like, stability, like that was a big piece that I was missing. And you know, I did the flexibility, the mobility part, but the stability, I just didn't like focus on it like I should have.
Me too, especially for the lower back. I was starting to get more flexible, but then when you do a deadlift and add weight, there's a new component to it, and it's hard to keep that posture. So I've been doing a lot of GHD, which we kind of do back extension and really. So actually, I started more doing stability instead of mobility, and that's kind of how I worked out my lower back problems, or
That's
not problem, but just a bit of stiffness. So you think stiffness is going to stretch? No, stiffness. I need to work the muscle
Stabilize
harder.
it. Yep, exactly, man. Yeah, and you got to put it under tension, get it to shake. Like that's really what it's all about. Like those stability workouts, I think, are like game changers if you don't have them. If you're an athlete or you're just into fitness, you're not doing stability work, you should start right away, because like that, I think, like just what you said, like I was doing the same things, you know. I do because you were doing the one where you do the torso, right? So like your legs are back here, torso's going down and up, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I do the other way where I'm like my legs. I've been doing that one where my legs are doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I try to sit where I'm just sitting on my chest, and I spread myself out where I'm just at like a kind of teeter-totter deal, you know, and just hold and stabilize myself. Oh man, like it really does. Like there's those like mid back posterior muscles. That's what we need for the deadlift.